Hey, good evening guys. So today is day 4 of this mini series and I'm going to be talking to you about some of the organs responsible for eliminating hormones from your body. So today we're going to be focusing in on the liver, large intestines, skin, and lymphatics. And although these 4 different areas are not directly responsible for hormonal production, they do play a huge role in hormonal recycling and elimination, which is equally, if not more important, because if this elimination pathway is not efficiently moving out, then there is, as with everything in the endocrine system, a trigger up to the hypothalamus, and basically our hormone production will slow down because your hypothalamus can tell that, hey, you know, we have all of these excess hormones floating around, so I can just kind of slow down doing my job. And we don't want that either, because the endocrine system is something that we need to have in balance at all times, not too much, not too little. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Dr. Kate Scott. I am a naturopathic doctor practicing in Kingston, Ontario and Ottawa, Ontario. And I did want to tell you guys actually today, in today's video, that I do home visits. It's something that I realized that I'm not really emphasizing. So people contact me to book in, and then they're like, oh my goodness, you can come to my house to see me. Isn't that wonderful? So I thought I would just remind you guys of that in this video. Sorry. Banging my watch on the table. All right, so let's dive into this a little bit. So basically, I'm going to give you the basic rundown of this elimination pathway that I'm talking about today. So basically, the liver, as you probably know already, is in charge of detoxing many things and breaking down many things in our body, not just hormones, into smaller molecules, particles that are able to go and do their job in other parts of the body or be eliminated. So the liver does that with hormones. It breaks things down. The hormones go through your gallbladder into your large intestines, which is where your stool is hanging out, and then you have a bowel movement and out they go. So that is kind of the short run around of how this pathway works. And so a couple things that are really important here. One is that regular bowel movements are really important to ensure that your endocrine system, your hormones, are functioning properly. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, hormone production is just as important as hormone elimination, or effective hormone elimination, in terms of the system as a whole. So we need to make sure that we are having regular bowel movements. And what else did I want to talk about? Just that we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to support the liver, again, in that detox process, so that it is not overwhelmed, so that it can effectively move things through from the liver into the large intestine to be removed. And then the other key here is that the large intestine itself, or the whole gastrointestinal system, has to be intact. And what I mean by that is, some of you may have heard the term leaky gut, and all that basically alludes to, or is referring to, is the fact that essentially we are a tube from our mouths all the way down to the other end, and that tube has to be intact. So it is permeable, but it can be, you know, this permeable or this permeable or this permeable. So we kind of want this, and when you get this, what happens is which is referred to as a leaky gut, is that this estrogen recycling that happens between the large intestine and the liver gets backlogged. So instead of just going one way, it happens to go the other way more than maybe we want. So the estrogen goes liver to large intestine, and the message there is, we're done with this, it's processed, let's go get it out. And instead of getting out, because there is this leaking happening, the estrogen leaks through this barrier and has to go back into the liver to get cycled through once again. So we're making our liver do double duty when our gut lining is not properly intact. So that's something that we always want to address in treatment plans if that is something that is going on and we have a hormonal imbalance. And then in terms of the skin and lymphatics, of course, most of you know the skin is the biggest organ. So it's something that we can't kind of not pay attention to. We need to recognize that hormones are not only they're not only being produced by the body, they're being put on our bodies by cosmetic products that we use. They're being put in our bodies depending on what foods you eat or what medications you're on. So all of these things are kind of assaulting, if you will, your body on different levels if it's throwing off your hormonal balances, and you can see the result of that ultimately in the skin. Your skin is your first barrier from the outside in. It's your last barrier and last kind of sign in terms of when things are off on the inside, going out or moving out. So we need to support detox through the skin. One of my kind of hacks that I listed in the description is, if you have never tried dry brushing, then that's a really, really great way to help support detox through your skin. And it's a really easy thing that you can do just in the shower a couple times a week. Another thing is your lymphatic system. So your lymphatics is a really, what do I want to call it? It's like a lightweight network that underlies your skin. So when you're doing lymphatic work, you don't have to press really hard anywhere, because it actually collapses the network. So it's like a system of veins, if you will. They're not really, but anyways, it's the lymphatic system itself is a separate system in a sense, and so you just have to be very careful if you're trying to move things through the lymphatics that you don't press too hard, because you'll collapse the system underneath. But we have lymphatic nodes, so deposits in different areas of the body. You know, here, just kind of above the breasts, in the axillary area, behind your knees, in the groin area. And these areas need to keep moving and keep flushing. And that's why, as women who are wearing bras all the time, women who are wearing tight undergarments, need to pay attention to these things and do what they can to make sure that they're staying active and moving and flushing these areas as much as possible. So a couple more hacks for you beyond the dry brushing a couple times a week is to keep moving. Make sure that you sweat daily. If you think that trampolines are only for little kids, that is lies. I'm a big fan of Rebounding, so those mini trampolines. If you can get one of them and do some rebounding every day, that's a really, really great way to get your lymphatic system moving. And then a couple more quick hacks for you in terms of supporting liver detoxification. You've probably heard this one, but lemon water in the morning, if you put a little dash of cayenne in that, especially this time of year, fall moving into winter, really going to rev up your system and support detoxification. And then, like I mentioned, in terms of your large intestine, if you want to make sure that things are detoxing properly through your intestines, you need to make sure that you're having a bowel movement. So that seems really, really obvious, but a lot of people ignore it. And yes, there is a spectrum of normalcy in terms of what is regular and what isn't. However, I always ask people to just consider how long things are sitting in there. And then also layer on top of that the understanding that if you do have a leaky gut, anything that's just hanging out in there is going back into your system and making other organs do double duty in terms of detoxifying them. So I'm going to leave it at that for today. If you guys have any comments or questions, please post them below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Have a great evening. Bye.